Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I have to apparently Google a word called Vegemite.
Scott's a liar. Pretty
Vegemite.
much is
Marmite.
where this comes down to.
I'm gonna bring.
It definitely isn't. It definitely is not the better one.
Vegemite is a thick. Vegemite is a thick black Australian food spread made from leftover brewer's yeast extract with various vegetables and spice additives. I bet I'd love that.
It's very savory. It's very savory, very strong.
Yeah, but
Wait,
I don't like
Where
a
can I
spoon.
buy that?
But Marmite is better.
Where can I buy Vegemite?
It's not. Trust me, Marmite is not better than Vegemite.
I've never had.
I know what
so I
Marmite
actually
is.
don't know. I didn't
I
like
would
it.
trust you, but you're a criminal.
But Vegemite is not easy to find in the U.S., but you can still obtain it, especially if you live near a large city with an international population. Okay,
Exactly.
cool.
Still gets it. Way better. Quote.
No.
Either way, I know what Marmite is. I've just never heard of Vegemite. But let's keep going. So you guys had a decision to make about which one you wanted to build. And I suppose before we make that decision, unless you guys are already 100% all in, you know what you want.
Yeah, let's vote. Let's just vote. Let's speed it up.
Yeah, we'll vote.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we down with that? We're down for a vote?
All right, Neil, go.
I vote Castle.
Tash.
Castle.
Castle.
Cathedral. at that point,
Cathedral.
Jake's just like,
Rogar only, right? Awesome, cool. So then that means you guys are going to be investing 29 BP into building a castle over the course of the next month. Awesome. But you're not spending that yet. You can just put it into your BP planner for the future, right? Okay, cool. But before we do that, let's actually pull ourselves out of the map phase and into the game for a minute. You guys have done a lot of, my apologies, a lot of expansion recently. You've moved from where you originally were set. Oops, let me change this here. You moved from where you were originally set over a considerable amount to the east, actually straight shot to the east. And even explored a little bit into where the river is, slightly above Rid. But you really haven't spent much time exploring the kingdoms as they are, or really a lot of time RPing with your various advisors. So before we even allow you to go and explore the different realms, if you choose to even leave your homeland, or maybe you want to stay there for a while because you have a lot to work on, you're going to have a moment where you're going to have your advisors each looking to have a quick little conversation, like a catch up with you. Elliot's pretty simple. When he comes in and he has this quick little catch-up of everything that's going on in the kingdom, he's just more or less saying that there's been the comfort of the people and their faith inside the kingdom has been kind of wavering up and down as you've come across a couple of problems. So in fact, there came a moment of unrest recently where as you guys were approaching the colder weather, because you are in a temperate climate where you guys live, as you're approaching the colder weather, and you guys got a nasty cold snap at the end of last month, November. I forgot to spell the word for a minute. So we had a bit of a cold snap. There were a bunch of people that didn't have warmth in their homes, not enough homes to adequately keep the people and whatnot. And so that was growing with greater increase. But then you just turned your attention to building more homes and finally finishing the last temple and promising the people, now that the shrines are done, we're going to take our attention away from there. But understand, with all three of the shrines, you're welcome to go to those shrines for shelter if you need to in times of need, and so on and so forth. And you increase the number of homes that were actually built there, turning the actual economy towards building those homes, and turning the attention of your people that are working directly for you as opposed to for themselves to building those homes. And the unrest dropped down considerably as they felt more comfortable. More importantly, the things have settled from the situation pertaining to the faith. And so Elliot's, gives that information and kind of moves away from there. Valerie, in your own perspective, from what you've seen, as you've gone about and spoken to the people and talked about what it is that they want to see invested into and gotten some ideas of the economy and have shifted that way and have thought maybe you really need to be able to expand how it is that you're able to commerce with other cities. Maybe you need to start opening commerce with other cities that would make things easier. Perhaps you want to open the doors. You guys will be able to discuss that with yourselves shortly. One, as the leader of the faith, you can see that things have considerably settled down since what had happened beforehand. Now that Vrogar happens to have built his own independent shrine, you can see that Ellie has been spending some time there. Within the shrine itself, and there's a small little area that's for Vrogar Waruk, a small little image made in the name of Vrogar Waruk, but it's otherwise a Vrogar shrine, and you've allowed it to happen. The people overall are happy with their faith and how things are going. Neil is the Magister, as a person that kind of overlooks the.
I'm not Magister.
Aren't you Magister?
Marshal.
No.
Marshal.
That's why I said. That's why I said don't change the names or put them in brackets.
My
But you
apologies.
didn't.
No. I did it. It's actually still there. I can still see Marshal. If you click on Chosen of the Quill, it says, but what happens is I misaligned my eyes. It's vacant as the Magister.
Does it say?
Yep. If you click on it, you look under.
Oh, it says Marshal.
Yep, perfect. It's right
Oh,
there. I
well.
just have misaligned my eyes there, that's all. So now that you're done yelling at me,
Yeah, fair.
you can see that you and Kithel are getting along very well with the laws being abided by whatnot. You can certainly see from time to time it really would be nice to have an enforcer to enforce the rules, because people do act out of turn from time to time. When some people act out of turn, others complain about it and why are they being this way and not being punished? Well, there's not enough guards to go around at this point, but overall things are pretty stable. Dwayne approaches you guys at one point and says,
Uh-oh.
I need a word. He actually specifically, he'll approach who he has the greatest relationship with. I suppose it's actually with the Marshal, Chosen of the Quill. And says, I need a word with you, or all of you if you deem it necessary.
And go ahead. What's the problem, Dwayne?
You give me an opportunity, and I appreciate it. I accept the opportunity, and I think I've done well with my position. I may not always agree with everything that you've asked me to do, but I've done it. But this is not where my life is meant to be. This is not where I've intended to settle down. Not to mention, there are those that still owe me a considerable amount of money elsewhere, and I have not collected. And I have a feeling if I make them wait any longer, they'll just assume that I've forfeited the monies that are owed to me, and that are to a degree owed to the families of those that had fallen in the task that I was set upon prior to our meeting or when we met. I'm willing to stay for another month, maybe to help with the transition, but after that, I'm sorry, I can't stay any longer than that. I have my own things that I need to do. And I hope this is understood, that this isn't meant to be anything against yourself or the kingdom overall. It's just, I have my own tasks. And maybe one day in the future I'll be able to come back and settle happily into a position for you. Because I kind of like what you're doing here. But you understand my perspective.
I understand entirely. Thank you for your help with everything you've done, Dwayne. And you will be welcome to return should you feel this is where you belong.
He nods, says, I appreciate your understanding of the matter. Again, I will not shy on my duties. I will serve them fully, upright, and for a month's time, and maybe even a week's time beyond that. But I'll be honest with you, probably a bit half-hearted as I get plans ready for me to leave. And after that, it's going to be on to you guys. I don't question that the gods are with you. I've seen it with my own eyes. And with that, for the first time, he'll actually give a bit of a bow, a bit of a formality, and then he'll turn and he'll walk away from you, Rayrin.
I give Rayrin that exact look I just gave them. Just to the bow.
Well, it appears we'll need to find ourselves a new spy master, which is awful because we need someone we can trust, really.
Yes. And annoyingly, the people that are good at the job are the ones that are hard to find.
Edric, oh, sorry, if you're conversing, do that. It's important.
If we are unable to find someone within a month, I believe I would be capable of assuming the role. However, subterfuge is not exactly my forte. I'm able to outsmart and outwit, but I'm not exactly one for sneaking around in the alleys.
There's also the issue of you're not exactly unknown here now.
Indeed, but presumably I would be able to pick up Dwayne's net of informants.
That's true, yes.
And the requirement for me to simply wander among the folk would be minimal.
True. Well, hopefully it doesn't come to that and we can find someone.
Moving on. Edric, everything seems fine. He just simply says we need to increase trade with other communities. Perhaps we should send out a bit of an outreach, or even explore the area to where different things are. Maybe people aren't aware of the fact that there is a kingdom here, and we should send word out that we're open for trade and that persons are welcome at our gates for doing so.
Probably not a bad idea. What do you guys think? Shall we open up the borders to trade?
Yeah. 100%. Doesn't make sense for us not to, does it?
He does inform you. It's not like we have a formal market set up here, but that's fine. Even though we don't have a formal shop or market, at least we'll allow our citizens to handle trade. And he himself, and then you, of course, chosen of the Quill, will be able to handle some trade aspects as well with people underneath you. Kind of, you just have to be more overlooking since you don't have a specific establishment for handling this stuff. But either way, they spread word out that no, there's a town by the name of Cursefall that is located in this area. It's going to give away your location to people, but it opens your doors for trade, and that'll be a good thing. Kithul, the warden, just simply informs you everything seems to be settled well enough. His plate is rather full as the population continues to swell, so he will need aid in the future. But for now, things are well underway, and people are happy with the rule of 3 chosen by their deities. And that kind of like settles things down. We're going to do the next kingdom phase in a little bit. We don't need to worry about that now. What do your characters actually want to do moving forward? Like, what do you actually want to do? You have this whole land in front of you.
Okay, so I think we need to start exploring the area directly around us so we can start making a bit of a actual like kingdom start.
So agreed. So what Rayron would be doing is obviously he's both chosen of the Quill and marshal. So he regularly rides out, saddlebag packed with various things, and comes back with descriptions of areas, sketches of areas, and also like any note like, oh, like 6 wagons went through here the other week. That's a bit peculiar. So it's like he's getting away from the stress as well as performing his duties.
So a fun thing about exploration, I have to update the actual little handout that I've given you guys because I updated that for 16 mile squares. These are actually back to 12 mile squares. So I'll update that later on. That's not a big deal. As part of this this thing that you're doing, if you wanted to explore, say, south, because you've already gone so far east, right? On top of the normal travel time to get to the hex, it takes about 2 days per forest hex to overlook them and map them out. And you guys are welcome to, of course, spend some time doing that exploration. Exploration doesn't cost anything directly. It just takes time for your characters to do it. Now, I don't know if you would just go, just 3 of you yourselves, now that 1 is free. Or if you'd want to bring anybody with you. For instance, you had Elliot with you beforehand, as he was handling matters, as he seems to be good at penning things down. A bit of a cartographer.
One would have been doing other things as well. For one, he would he would have sent somebody to the inn or tavern or whatever it was in Reed, because he had been expecting reply from the message he sent.
I can't remember the message you sent originally.
It was more or less like information.
I remember.
And they were to send somebody or something to the inn in Reed, so he'd have someone staying there and waiting. And he would have like set that up quite soon. So, they may have been there for a month or something already waiting, however long that's taken. If they haven't returned, then he assumes that, they're still waiting. But I don't know how long he would think that it would take.
You could certainly send a messenger over in that direction to hear it. And you could have done that, and you definitely didn't get a response yet.
Okay.
So you sent a messenger to Red to get the response, and they came back saying the response is no response.
All right. So is that unusual in that time frame to have not heard anything?
It's been a few months, and you're waiting for like letters to get to locations to actually have that then returned, because they're not magically returning message. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So people might not even know where exactly it is. This town of Rid is to deliver the message back. So yeah. It definitely could take. You don't have an infrastructure of like a post. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So he would just have done that, and if anyone wants like him to come out, he probably will. Other than that, he would be focusing on, talking to the public and generally trying to preach a little bit, train, things like that.
Okay, awesome. But then that stuff is all just things that no big deal. You can still go exploring with the party. Cool. Yeah. So assuming you guys actually want to do that exploration bit, I believe the hexes, can you guys grab those in the top left-hand corner on the map? Can you touch those?
I don't believe so.
Okay, that's perfectly fine. Then what I do is I have it so that you can by calling it a settlement piece. And now you can
now
actually...
I can.
Yep, I was going to say now you can grab it. I'll name all those settlement pieces so you can grab them. And then what you do is you're not actually going to grab it. No, don't do that. You're going to copy and paste it. So you can have an extra and place it where it is that you want to go do your expanding. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I don't know that we can copy and paste.
Oh, is that true?
I don't think we have the power.
Okay, then I will copy and paste down here for you, and I'll allow you guys to paste as you see fit. I'm gonna just throw
the
a
other
couple
thing
down here.
I also would have done is I would have tried to figure out what the staff does and the skull does.
Oh, perfect. So why don't we make those checks, because that's super important.
Yes.
The skull.
Oh,
sorry,
and the belt, which we still don't know.
I'm gonna sneeze. The staff. Could you roll for me really quickly?
Yep. Oh, for fuck's sake, I'm never finding out what the staff is.
Still no idea what that staff does. Do you want to roll for what next?
I could say you're stumped. It came out of a tree stump.
The belt. Let's do the belt now.
This happens to be the Meridian belt, if I remember correctly. It allows you to wear, if I remember correctly, it allows you to wear not only 2 rings on your fingers, but 2 additional rings on your toes.
Noted.
Because there's a maximum of 2 rings on a character, because rings are probably the most powerful generic item. So.
Okay, so that'll come in handy much later on.
Yep.
1 ring.
Okay,
rings.
and then I'll write that down after I do this, and then the last one is the skull with the candle.
You can roll for that one.
Oh, I didn't mean to hit it twice. The first one is what it is. Oh, come on, the second one's a natty 20.
Oh, maybe you can use that for something else you're trying to get done.
I think there's anything else to study.
You're not able to discern what it is that the skull does. You just know that when you hold it, there's a little flame that the candle has a lit flame. When you put it down, the lit flame goes away.
Noted. Okay, at least I discovered one of them finally.
I can tell you that the spellcraft's high enough to know it's evocation.
Cool. Good to know.
Yep. Cool. Anything else you'd want to do with that other spellcraft check that you just rolled a natty 20 for? Is there anything else your character's
I don't
working
think
on?
there's anything else I need to figure out, is there?
That's sad.
That is really sad that I accidentally double-clicked. Aha!
It is
I
sad.
wasted a 20.
Okay, so you guys would want to spend, for what it looks like with Neil, because he just straight up, I think that was Neil, just straight up grabbed all of those. 2, 4, 5, that's 10 plus travel time is 1, 2, 3, 4, 15 days out and around. So it's half of the month exploring.
I did grab all of those, but you're more than welcome to have them in a different orientation. But Tesh said he wanted to explore, like, get the kingdom going, which requires space around the kingdom, right?
Yeah, it's up to you guys if that's your angling. I don't know if you want it to go down or out or whatever. So it's good
But
to
it
know.
seems
It's
to
good to
make
know the
sense.
immediate dangers, right?
Yeah,
I think
it makes
explore
sense
the
to me
place
to
around.
have a buffer zone
Nope. I
so
can.
that 6 trolls don't just turn up on the north side randomly.
Oh, there was the troll cave like a mile away.
So anyways, the my apologies. The doing that exploration around, is that what everybody agrees on? Just thumbs up or say yes. Cool. So you're exploring
like
around
this
like that.
is
You spend
fun.
about 15 days. What I need is survival checks. I'm just going to need 2 survival checks. Nothing crazy. One, you're
Oh,
of course leading this. They're of course giving you the +2.
100% a trap. Now that we're rolling.
It's fine. One's really good.
That 90/20 already got used up too. So
I'm so sad about that. I don't think I ever rolled nat 20s in this sessions except for like way ages ago.
God, he is such a good modifier. And do you want to use luck on that, sir?
The fuck?
That's only the first one, so maybe we get a little bit lost for the first one, but afterwards we're fine.
The second one.
No luck.
Oh,
You realize this because you rolled the 90/20 that got wasted. Roll 20 is punishing you for it.
I hate everything right now.
Awesome. You guys explore the
We
area.
found that troll nest.
You guys explore that area, and it turns up with just other very rich lands where things grow very fertily, so on and so forth. As you know, there was the impact of the whatchamacallit, keep
Yes.
and the curse that existed here for a long time. Definitely persisted around this area the longest. As you reach like the edges of this, you can see that maybe the fertility of the curse that existed here beforehand kind of slows down at the tail end of this. All of that land that's immediately around here, I'm going to have to make little token markers to kind of identify things a little bit easier since I changed the size of the hex. But technically, all of those squares are considered forest. So you have that beautiful lush forest immediately around where your keep is, which is of course the center one. All right, beautiful.
I didn't factor in the +2, so it's a 15 and then a 17.
What plus? Oh, 15 and 17. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then with 15 and 17, what you guys are actually able to discover is right here.
Is a Scott troll dungeon.
Right here. So you come to realize that in this area right here, it's on the furthest reaches, almost like this corner over on the side. There actually happens to be a camp of goblins that live in the area. So there is a camp of goblins that live in the area. You explored and you discovered their existence. However, you weren't able to find out how many there were, and you're pretty sure you tipped them off to the fact that you were in the area, whereas maybe they didn't know prior. They noticed, you're pretty sure that scouts had noticed you. You felt the presence around you, but weren't able to attack them quite just yet. Also, as you were, but it wasn't so much of a concern. Like, I'm not about to attack our people, and our people have defenses, and we're not super concerned yet. We're just figuring things out. And then over in this hex over here, when you explored that one, you actually find out there was a cave with a family of owl bears that live there.
Oh, fuck.
Owl bears aren't generally a concern most of the time. But come spring, when they're leaving their hibernation, they tend to be very hungry, and they roam much, much, much further. Luckily, though, now it's November, and so they're actually going into hibernation. They've kind of like finished up everything that they're doing. But within a month, if you don't have any notice of them, they're going to be hibernating. They're not going to be a concern.
So we have a season to decide what to do with them.
If they're all in one cave, we just slowly, carefully, gently brick it up and then start a fire in there outside and just smoke them. Just slowly, just smoke them.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works.
Yeah, that won't come barreling through that wall or anything.
They're in hibernation.
Uh-huh.
I bet the smoke.
The owl bears,
They
not
come
bears.
and they
They
cough.
hibernate differently.
Anyway, so we have a month. We have a season to decide what to do with them, and then we have the goblins we might need to deal with.
Anything else your characters would have done with the remaining 15 days? I imagine you were checking in on your kingdom. Like, he kind of like set out, went to the first hex, came back, second hex, came back. Anything else you would have been doing with your time?
I might have been like spending some time with the people and at the martyr shrine. Just doing so I'm not in the castle all the time, basically.
Okay, cool.
Do would I know if goblins speak Orcish?
They speak Glyn,
Okay.
which is what moles speak as well. Mole don't actually speak mole because that's
No, Mole is the
It's
ancient
the ancient language. Yeah, they speak. Glyn.
Yeah, so we both speak mole, and we like go and talk to them like,
It's like if someone came out and started talking in Latin, you'd be like, what?
You know some of those words, but you might not realize you know the words because there's so many words at once. You know what I mean? Like, huh. All right. So, anyways, so then we will finish up that month, and this is the last month of us kind of like forcing through a quick little month of stuff, and then we're gonna go back to normal adventure time frame. But by quick, I mean like you guys barely did any adventuring. So we're gonna do one more kingdom roll, and then we're finally done. And we're going back to normal adventuring phase of this campaign. So
And this one's going to be expensive, just so you know.
let's smash it out. It's fine. We built a castle. What do you expect?
Yeah, we have 49 to start with. 29 goes to castle.
Yeah, but how much does it cost otherwise? 40.
Oh yeah, no, it's
50,
great to get it
54?
now. This isn't me complaining. This is me agreeing and being like, oh, we're on a budget now.
before you guys actually jump into rolling for that phase and everything, when you guys are returning back home and time is stirring up or whatever, at one point in time, you're going to have a moment where Kithel comes to the room and he asks to speak to you guys, because they can only really, it's like they approach all of you simultaneously. What he actually does is they tend to approach one person. That person can make decisions from there. Kithel chooses to approach Valrin in this scenario. Because I'm going to kind of like go based off the position where you guys settled yourselves, even though your title stays the same. That's kind of be base logic for who they approach, but there could be situational beyond that. He approaches Valrin. One second. Chosen of the Hearth, I have a matter that I think you might want to attend to.
Do go on, Kithel.
The gates have been opened, and word of their settlement has existed for some time. Trade has begun a little bit. A few travelers through even happening. Nothing so great to note in the matter of trade. However, there is one man that seems to have found his way towards our home that I thought you might find interesting. He's a Perrin. Hold on.
Okay.
Let me confirm. Let me make sure I'm not dumb.
Oh no, wait. He's actually an orc.
He's a Perrin, like yourself. But he also is of Paradel, like yourself. I know the armor that he wears, and the garb, the sigils on it. Though they are old and worn, they are definitely that of an officer of the Paradel military.
Ah.
I had the guards detain him, and he is still detained. I figured you would like to speak to him directly.
Very much so. Thank you. Good thinking, and I will follow him off to where this guy is being kept.
Now that the castle is near construction, they're probably going to have to make a different location for such things to happen, maybe converting a house. But the basement of the castle is where they were kind of like holding prisoners beforehand. So you kind of like make your way back into the castle, where very likely you'd be bump into Elliot and Rayrin having a conversation, grab their attention. And as one had said beforehand, he's been off handling other situations with the people as well. You can certainly send word to him. You can tell Rayrin. You don't have to tell anybody. But he's going to lead you to the basement.
Oh, I would tell Rayron what's going on, and then say if you wish to join or go get one, up to you. I'm going to go talk with him now.
Rayrin, as usual, is having an interesting but heated discussion with Elliot. He's like, "No, you can't do that. That's stupid." And then he interrupts and tell him, and he's like, "Yes, I'll take a break." They like got papers out on the table, like discussing a law.
Hearing the matter, Elliot specifically says, "Should I send word to one?"
I think so. It doesn't seem right to exclude him from these sorts of things.
I'll have word sent to him immediately. And he turns and walks up. He does, like a slight head bow sort of little thing, and then walks off.
Well, this should be interesting.
Do you guys wait for one, or do you just go down there? And he can join you partway through.
Kithel, have you spoken to this fellow?
I was informed of his presence, and then I gave word to detain him. I have not spoken to him, simply watched him as he walked by, so we met eyes, so that I may get a reading of him myself. As far as I understand, he has broken no laws, and has done nothing wrong whatsoever.
Yes.
He contemplates for a second. Kind of like, seems like he's thinking of something, and Kithel thinks for about a minute. And then he says, "Perhaps that's not entirely true. He has on him an amulet with two sigils on it, that of the martyr and that of Lady Aravel.
Well, this is complicated.
It's very likely that this is standard garb for somebody of his position,
I
but I do
would
not know their customs well enough."
More to the point, he's a
Would I
military...
know if it?
What?
Sorry, go ahead.
Would I know if it's a normal?
Knowledge local.
Yeah. Okay. Local is only 2. Can I use that 20?
It tickled that 20 it rolled off of.
Yeah.
As far as you know, it is not mandated by any stretch of the imagination. Even though she is kind of the patron god, even though they worship other gods to a degree, she's kind of the patron god of Paradel. You know what I mean? That is the one that they venerate the most, and they put her forward, and so on and so forth. You don't believe it's mandated that particular soldiers or even commanders have to have that sigil with them. Just that the company, like the marching force, carries a sigil with them, like banners and so on and so forth. And usually, like a large group will have like clerics or priests or whatever of the faith. So it might be his personal faith.
Myself for now. I'm going to keep what Kithel said about it maybe being part of his garb. I'm going to leave that as the common idea right now.
More importantly, it matters why he's here. Arguably, he has broken the law if Paradel are moving troops into the city. I know it's just a single one, but...
I would like to speak to him because strategically it does not make sense to just send him in knowing that something like this would happen if that is what's going on. He may be an emissary. I don't know. Or he may be like me.
Let's hope not.
He gives you a look.
Well, we don't need another Perrin around here with prophetic dreams.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
Do you guys wait for one, or do you just go down?
I think we'd wait for Rayrin would pull out one of the books that he's been reading, working on, making annotations in the margins with Elliot, and sit down and wait.
One is informed of the scenario. Does he come?
Yeah.
He joins into the room with the three of you guys prior to
That'd
going
be
down.
great, wouldn't it? Does he come? No.
No.
We're just there like, where the hell is he?
Word would come back saying one is chosen to...
Yeah.
Like, should we not tell him?
2 hours later. Oh, come on.
Elliot's
really
not a
like the
cock.
idea of it.
You know?
I like the idea of the commoners just watching the three of us prank each other and just being like, what is happening?
That's what you should name your nation. You should name it Kutcher. As an Ashton Kutcher.
Just a prank, bro.
Just punked.
Oh god. Anyway.
So when you arrive, do you guys speak any more of it, or is it just kind of like nod to each other and go down?
One would ask what's going on, because I assume he would have been told more or less to come, or would he have been told?
Elliot personally would have approached you and told you of what he had heard.
I would warn. he has with him as part of his garb an amulet that has both the Martyr and Erevel on. He is from Parendale, so it may be normal, but just letting you know ahead of time.
Yeah, one would give like a bit of a sneer, but he'd just say, "Well, he's to my knowledge, he's not trying to settle here at the moment. So let's go see
Indeed.
what he wants."
Indeed.
You make your way downstairs. You guys don't really have cells down there. It's a room that has a lock that's been put on it, a simple bolt lock that's been put on it. There's no windows or anything inside that room that's down there because it's not meant to be a long-term prison or anything like that. The room that you have that one prisoner in at the moment, that one long-term prisoner in at the moment, Christian, I believe the name was, they are have a room with a window. Moving on. So you go over to the room, and the guard that's down there, does Kithel accompany you or no?
It seems appropriate for Kithel to.
Kithel comes down there and then gestures for the guard to leave. He then goes over and opens the door, and he steps in and says, "Please stand. You do not
Top
know
lad,
who."
Kithel.
He says, "You do not know who I am. My name is Kithel, and I am the warden of this kingdom. I present to you the three chosen, the rulers of this kingdom, the chosen of the quill, Rayrin, the chosen of the blade, one, and someone that might be a little bit more keen to listen to your words, the chosen of the martyr. Oh, sorry, no, chosen of the chosen of the hearth, Valoran." And then he steps aside, and he steps out of the way, and so that he can see the three of you standing outside the room. And after he steps out of the way and you can all see each other, he then looks at the man and says, "Bow." And the guy, he does. Like, he, without, nonchalantly, so not nonchalantly, like a practice, somebody has practiced bowing, practice so on and so forth, but no reverence or anything like that. Bows, a practiced person doing so. When you look upon him, what you see is in your age, in your youth, Perrin and humans look very similar to a human eye. Perrin can tell the difference. Humans have a hard time telling the difference because they're dumb. But as age goes on, the differences become more extreme. For instance, you can tell immediately, Valoran, that this man is clearly in his 80s. There's no question in your mind that this man is in his 80s. However, that's middle-aged, not even old yet. You guys age very well. So he's clearly a man in his 80s, been around since probably around when the Kijinksi even was formed as an empire, right? Like he probably maybe even fought on that battlefront sort of a thing, because of his age. So anyways, the other two of you start to notice it because where in their youth, Perrin and humans have rounded ears, but as Perrin get older, their ears tend to somewhat elongate and get a bit more of a point to them. And their features, as opposed to, whereas a lot of humans gain things like jowls and whatnot as their face kind of like sags down a little bit with age, Perrin, their faces kind of pull back a little bit more and get a bit of a higher cheekbones. And it becomes more pronounced their different nature. And so you see again a middle-aged Perrin man, very obviously Perrin to all of you, standing there in fact, Perrin issued military garb and armor. He has a sword. He doesn't have a sword strapped to his side, but you can clearly see like the way his belt is worn in that area and whatnot. There's generally a sword that's settled there. You can see around his neck clearly the amulets that are hung there. That's of Lady Aravel's sitting side by side with that of the martyr. And all of his stuff that you can see is beaten. It's worn. It's stuff that has seen combat and seen travel. It is not maintained. The face that he has on him is seemingly emotionless. If you had to use a word, tired. He does the bow, again practiced, without emotion, and then looks upon you. He doesn't speak first.
I apologize for your current accommodation, but you must understand that a fledgling nation such as ourselves have a reasonable amount of caution when it comes to the agents of Peridhel. Perhaps you could enlighten us as to your presence.
He listens to that and nods and says, I understand. I understand completely. The way that I'm dressed, you would assume that I'm of Peridhel. an agent of, as you said. I'm not.
Sense motive, please.
Go ahead.
Agreed. Yeah.
Doubt.
Press X to doubt. May I do that as well?
Actually, I would be, because this is an important thing for me to look at.
I mean, he's wearing a uniform. Why would you not doubt it?
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, but I mean, it's only as good as Neil.
Shut up.
Your natty 20s at best equal Neil. So. Sorry.
Was this the?
So anyways, you guys look at him, and you don't. Two of you definitely. You have. There's a deep sincerity in the words that he says there. A deep sincerity in the words that he says there. You don't think that he's lying. One is just a naturally suspicious person, especially for somebody that's wearing this kind of sigil. So his result isn't a 13. It's less than that because of an in-head modifier. You doubt. You don't believe what he's saying. You think it's a lie. He said those words. If you guys don't immediately respond, he says...
Sorry. One thinks he's lying,
Correct.
but we don't.
Correct.
Yeah.
But one's naturally suspicious of anybody that comes in, especially a Paradel. You're wearing Paradel military uniform with that sigil.
Yep.
And why exactly is that? You're wearing the armor.
I once held a position in their military. I have since retired, with accolades.
Baron, do retired officers keep their weapons and armor of office?
Would I know this?
Actually, you would. They generally do keep it because of, like, if they go to events and so on and so forth, they're usually very well maintained and so on and so forth, because it's a sign of, like, dignity. When you're a retired general, you're still a general. You're still revered as such by the populace, and so if you go to a gala, you wear your shit. But this is beat up. This isn't revered shit.
I would still nod as just a quick answer. Just yeah. So what brings you here to us?
As I said, I have retired from the Paradel military, and I have retired with accolades. I did well when I served under them. Many miles of land were taken under the Paradel Empire, and I'm proud of the successes that I've had. However, I'm a bit shamed looking back on my life of what it was that I have accomplished. I look to leave Perrin, find a different life. One would be a fool to traverse Idir without the appropriate adornment. It happened to be that the greatest armor I owned was the issued armor, and the greatest weapons that I owned were the issued weapons. I have my own wealth, but who would commission something of equal value when you can just have what you've already grown comfortable in? I heard of your nation. There's word that you're welcoming for new travelers and fledgling and the like. There's also some word out there that you're looking to not be very aggressive. From what I understood, you've done no aggressive actions towards others. I'm not afraid of combat, but I thought maybe I could find a life. Maybe build my own home.
Are you aware of some of the laws of our country?
I walked into the town this morning, shortly before sunrise. I used logic for what laws might be what. Beyond that, I've seen no posting and certainly have asked no questions.
What was your name, sorry?
My name is Leon. Leon Yeagar. Val, roll a knowledge history check.
Ooh.
Actually, you as well, Neil.
Knowledge history, yeah?
Yep.
Ah, that's still 17. I'll take it. Oh, what the fuck! I hate you so much right now. I fucking hate you.
You guys know the name of Commander Yeagar. You guys know the name of Commander Yeagar. You actually are familiar with the name. He had worked in services over in the region known as one second. Just want to make sure I click the right. I say the right thing. He worked in the services over in the region known as Jovincia. Jovincia is what the region that was pushing hardcore into Jovance, which is why it was named that way, and has certainly clashed with a Maltese many times. He has the title of commander, even though he also had the title of general. He also had the title of commander because for a while he actually oversaw the defenses of a major city over in Jovincia, and you always maintained the highest title that you had so long as you left that position with honor. If you lose it dishonorably, you fall back to whatever title you had beforehand, right? So he left the commander title with honor. You could refer to him as general or as commander. Commander's the more respectful version. He definitely has successes under his belt. It was known that he would, every region he went into, he would offer people, very simply, would send out word. You will be defeated. These are the reasons why. Surrender, or we will have to take by force. People would not surrender. The devastation would be great. But as soon as the rumor of a white flag was waved, the offenses were called off. There were a couple of times where that was used as a tactic against him, where people would raise a white flag to set up a trap. And as a result, the rest of the fighting forces were put to rest. Every single solitary soldier, even on their knees, were put to rest. The last rumor that you know about him is that he's not a fan of taking people as captives and ripping them from their homes. He's a fan of the city that he took over, that they were put into Inclame and the regions that they had lived in prior, so they have access to their families, as opposed to taking them to other areas to remove them access to their families. There's a tactic and a benefit for doing both, but that was the tactic that he liked. Both of you guys know all these rumors. There's still more stuff, but you didn't hit a 20 or higher.
Huh.
Well, it is a pleasure to make your acquaintance, Commander.
He bows, a slighter bow, but just as a sign of, for those that know Paradise ways, a person of higher position compliment a person of lower position. He bowed.
This certainly seems fortuitous to us. However, although we are relatively small and not expansionist at the moment, we intend to occupy what was Idir. All of it.
He thinks for a moment, nods and understands.
There is another hiccup. While the martyr is quite highly respected here, he gestures to. He would have a marking for the martyr on his garb somewhere.
Mm-hmm. I imagine quite plainly present on both your chest and your cloak while in town.
Yep, Lady Arevale is not allowed in at all.
He nods.
I would look at the thing around his head, look back at him.
He follows your eyes and says, "Oh, I understand." And then he takes off the necklace, and he hands it over and says, "One's faith can exist inside their heart and doesn't need to be worn on them. Besides, this is not as simple as that." He hands you the amulet, and you can see again it's Martyr on one side, Martyr on one, and Arevale on the other. You flip it over, Martyr on one, Arevale on the other. Where there is war, there must also be peace. Where there is condemnation, there must also be forgiveness. Two sides of the same coin.
Perhaps we could continue this discussion over a meal rather than in the basement of the castle.
I think that is a good idea.
I'm sure you're hungry. Perhaps something nicer than the fare you may have been fed as of late.
I greatly appreciate the offer that you're making here. I've only been inside your kingdom for a few hours' time, and you're offering me to have a sit down and converse and dine with the rulers of said kingdom. It's an incredible honor.
I'm going to sense motive that, just to
Yeah,
be
that
sure.
was.
Of course. Go right ahead.
Just to be sure.
Oh, well.
If I'm going to put him in a general role, I want to know he's bona fide.
He seems to be being sincere.
Actually, I don't know what I was going to say. Ignore me.
In that case, like we'd go wait for meal, and while we're waiting or eating, discuss this, or post meal, discuss this in greater detail.
Mm-hmm. So he handed over the amulets to you, but as he handed over the amulets, he did say specifically, one need not wear their faith; he can just have it in the heart. He did say that.
Yeah, we are going to need to talk to him about that.
So, but anyway, so you guys go over and have a meal with him. You're welcome to, of course, continue the RP in this situation. I know there's a character you guys are interested in. Did you? So when do you give him some time, like the meal?
Well, it would take a little bit of time for the meal to be prepared, and we could be like, "There's a basin in there."
Okay, so you allow him to go and wash up. Do you offer clothing or whatever for him to wear, rather than walking around in general's uniform?
It would probably be relatively basic, but I suppose we would have some garb available, wouldn't we?
Okay. Yeah, of course. We're talking not even like noble's clothes, just like comfortable clothing that isn't shit, freshly woven. Yeah. Okay. So you, of course, would provide that for him. He would appreciate it, and say that don't worry about the. He's like, do not worry about the cleanliness and maintenance of my armor and the like. I can handle that. I do have to.
I would make sure he has a copy of the laws he can look over and see if he's okay with dealing with them.
Rayron's gonna, give him a good old discussion later.
He does ask before he parts way with you to go clean up, and then you guys can rejoin for dinner. He does say, I have a question. The sword that was given to me was given by a Turumbar herself. I hold it as a dear honor to my heart. I imagine that it will be returned to me at some point in time in the future.
Yes, of course. Kithel, could you see about returning the commander's belongings?
He says, I don't need it for dinner. And then he bows. As a politeness. And then walks off to clean up. And time passes, but I imagine you guys want to converse with each other first.
Rayron gives him an approving look when he says, I don't need the sword now.
Yeah. It was a test.
When he takes leave and walks away, one would turn towards you guys and go, I don't believe a word he says.
I believe he has been truthful with us all along.
From what I've heard of him myself, plus what I saw here, I believe that we can at least move forward with discussing with him. We can maybe have oh my god, my mind's gone blank. The guy who's not staying with us next month, but he's with us for this month still.
Dwayne.
Yeah, Dwayne. We can have Dwayne make sure that he doesn't make any contact outside of this place. Keep an eye on him for a little bit.
Kithel, you dog!
Oh, fucking damn!
I have a feeling when your NPCs roll much better than your PCs. Not explicitly on this sense mode, but
Yeah.
It's just funny because I roll very well. Always. It's pretty nice. So Kithel does chime in, and he will say to one, "Why?"
Why what?
I tend towards what they are saying. His word seems open and honest, plain. Why don't you trust him?
I don't know at this stage about him being a general or whatever.
Well, I did mention that what I'd heard about him before, so you know that I knew that name, essentially.
So someone of import from Parendale
Yes,
is just allowed to leave and
He would
seems to want to settle here. He doesn't seem suspicious to you.
He's an ex-commander, also held the rank of general, I believe. He's fought on the Amaltese front lines several times, as well as defended a city. Apparently, it's customary for Perrin generals or officers to leave and still be referred to as their highest rank. And obviously, if one is given a sword by the Turumbar themselves, it's unlikely that someone would attempt to receive that back as state equipment.
And from what I've heard, he's fairly honorable. He gives warning before attacks, says you can surrender, and if they do surrender, he stops the attack there.
My problem is someone of such rank among the Perrin. I feel his loyalties would lie with them. I do not feel like he would have the best interests of this nation in opposition if something were to say happen with Perindale.
If tensions were to grow with Peridel, perhaps we would need our spies to observe him, yes. However, let's not overlook the initial benefits of having a veteran soldier and commander commanding any troops we may have, and having a relatively celebrated war hero join our ranks as well. It adds a legitimacy to both our military and our nation.
It also might encourage more Perrin to follow the martyr and leave Perindale, which would be of benefit.
But he doesn't just follow the martyr. He also follows Lady Erebel, and as our laws clearly state, worship of Lady Erebel Dark Eyes is forbidden.
Our laws clearly state, worship is forbidden. He is wearing no insignia and not planning to practice any worship. We cannot control what people think.
As long as they do not act.
One nods, because whilst that is true, he's still not happy about it.
Yeah.
But,
I got a fucking line in the sand, guys. I just gotta push it.
We got a technicality. We're still on this side of the line. Just.
He says, I think that needs to be made. That point really needs to be reinforced if you're considering having him here. I mean,
I agree. He needs to understand that it is not acceptable.
I will think over dinner as we chat, but this is a triumvirate, so
Try to think of him as a fellow warrior rather than a worshipper of any god or a general of Peridel. See what you think of his virtues then.
well, I can appreciate that fact. I still don't trust him. I don't trust that he has, it's not as if he's severed ties with Perindale, but
I don't think it is a bad thing that you do not trust him. I think it is a good thing that we don't all unanimously trust him outright.
I agree. I was going to say exactly the same, Valron.
well, we'll have an interesting dinner then.
Yes.
Indeed.
Perhaps some wine?
Yes.
Okay.
Very enthusiastically, yes.
And so when you guys do settle down to dinner and you meet with him, there's typical formalities. You notice that he is very Perrin. Just the way that he handles situations is even just the way he holds his silverware, sits in his chair, asks for things. When he sat down and stood up, it comes off as very Perrin. You just get that because you grew up in literally the capital of Peridel in Osto. So you know it better than most people because it's the heart of where the culture is, right? Because Osto is technically its own government next to Bard, which is the most cultured part of the entire nation. So again, very Perrin. So conversation goes on. There's a bit of small talk, so on and so forth. Maybe even questions of the war, and he's not really a big storyteller. Don't think he is. But you probably ask a few questions, and so, was that you at the Battle of? I thought that was you that was there. I wasn't personally on the other side, but my uncle was. You know, that sort of a thing. And yeah, I was stationed at the wall. As a matter of fact, funny story of how I got here. Whatever you guys choose to tell, you of course don't have to divulge everything. But then we kind of like get to the meat and potatoes. The small talk's kind of out of the way. And you guys wanna
We've
approach
like
more.
eaten. We're relaxing with respective drinks. We're in the drawing room with the cigars and the brandy.
And I'll start it up for you guys. He will, after taking probably his fourth or fifth draw of the goblet in front of him, he'd look down at the goblet and look back up and say, you know, for a nation in its youth and a commerce so small, it is surprising the quality of mead that you have.
Yes, well, not entirely sure where the bottle's from. Might be some old mole stuff, perhaps. Like looks at Valrin.
Where would this come from? Is this from our farms, or is this is left here?
It was probably recently purchased since trade's opened up a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's like, this is better than we usually get.
yeah,
Yeah, we're all like, oh yeah.
I think wherever it's from, trade was a good idea.
Idir is surprisingly rich in natural resources, simply mostly untapped.
For good reason. At least used to be good reason.
Indeed. Which probably is a good time to bring this up. I'm sure you understand that we have had an agenda to inviting you to a formal meal, rather than simply exchanging pleasantries. Although I have enjoyed it, there is something we wish from you.
There's an agenda behind every conversation, especially when it comes to a official.
You wish to settle in the city, providing you do not worship Lady Erevel, or speak of worshipping Lady Erevel. That is acceptable. He looks to the others to confirm this.
One stays silent and kind of just looks at him.
We would have told, like, he would know of the three gods now.
He literally read the laws.
Okay, so
You
yeah,
gave him the pamphlet.
so-
He read it cover to cover. So you guys kind of look at him as a break. He says, "I understand."
However, there might be more that you could do for the nation and for us.
He turns to look at you a little bit more fully.
You're a celebrated war hero, and from what I understand, an excellent commander. We have need of people who are well versed in military matters. Should you wish to consider this role, we would, he again glances to the others, be happy to have you. However, there are some catches.
He nods, waiting.
As we said, the worship of Lady Erevel is illegal, and due to the laws in place, as an educated man of power, were you found to be worshipping Lady Erevel, the punishment would most likely be death.
He nods.
Secondly, we would need you to swear an oath of fealty to myself, Valrin, and One, and their respective gods. You would also need to swear an oath of fealty to the nation as well.
He nods. When it seems like you've completed it, then he starts to respond. He says, "First and foremost, I was raised in a culture worshipping Lady Erevel Dark Eyes. She holds a place in my heart because of the successes that she's brought to me on the battlefield, in my conquests in the past. I seek not to conquest now, and so therefore have no need to bring her to the battlefield, or even into my home. Of course, you cannot denounce someone's faith. You cannot denounce someone's history. 88 years of service to Lady Aravel is not something that gets washed away in a conversation, but there's no need for me to fall to my knees and prostrate myself in front of that god. I have no purpose for her. As for whether or not I'm looking to take a position within a kingdom, not right now. I'm tired. I traveled far and fought many times. Perhaps after I settle in. Perhaps we can speak in a month's time. But for now, I need to settle.
Throughout that entire conversation, Valorant's just like, look at him, look at one. Look at him, look at one.
One just looks at him and says pretty bluntly, What is your relationship with Garandel?
Amicable. They are very upset that I chose to leave. They had more purpose for me. But I conscribed time and time again. Every time I was rewarded for my efforts. I'm done seeking such rewards. I understand why it is that people need to grow their regions. I understand why it is that people want to expand their idea of the proper life. However, I'm sick of being the arbiter of slaves. I'm sick and tired of taking land from others simply because it looks good. It's one thing to take land. It's another thing to give structure to others. It's an entirely different thing to take land from others and then enslave them.
There would be a very much a look of respect from Valorant to him, because that's the sort of stuff he was looking at with his dislike for Perendale.
One would sense motive again.
Sure, go right ahead.
That conversation.
Yeah, the rest of you are fine. You don't have to.
Oh, that one scared me.
You are it's one of those things you think he's being sincere. You think at least he's good at pretending to be sincere. You don't think you have this like now you're starting to get this idea in your head. I don't know, maybe he's not lying, maybe he is. Everybody else seems to believe him, so you're like doubting your original opinion, but you're not willing to move quite away from that camp yet. Like, yeah. I don't know. Maybe a month's a good idea, sort of a thing. You know, maybe there's a time where I can catch you. You know, so
one is definitely going to watch him.
I mean, that's good. Like I said, I'm glad. It's a good thing to have like one person out of all three of us not trust.
So after you guys, there's a moment of silence again as you're watching and saying everything, and he's clearly stated that he didn't like what he was doing, and there's like a moment of silence, and clearly you're giving him the judgy eyes. He then oh, go ahead. No, never mind. You go.
Perhaps if you're tired of a life that is focused around war and conflict, perhaps you could seek to avoid conflict. Someone who's on good relations with Perendale would certainly be useful to us as a diplomat.
They will not see kindly to somebody who has seemingly sworn allegiance to another empire. I know many things about the structure of their governments. I know many persons of interest. I've trained many soldiers, many commanders have come out of working underneath me. They would not be very keen on the idea that I am now leading somebody else's military.
I was talking about diplomacy, not
They
village.
would not be very keen on the idea that I'm heading up the diplomacy of another empire.
Yes.
If I do choose to swear fealty, which I'm not convinced to do so yet, if I do, my mind would be open to you. I would not hold things back, because that's not what fealty is.
I think given the time for you to settle in will be good for both sides of this.
In that case,
One says, would you like to stay in the castle?
I can keep my eye on you.
He thinks for a few moments and he says, I'd like to build a house with my hands.
Okay.
In that case, you're
Respectable.
welcome to stay within the city and enjoy what pleasures it has to offer. If you need anything, please speak to one of the advisors.
He nods. He does say, I do have coin. I'm willing to pay. Are there workers that are willing to help in the construction of this home?
Yes, you should be able to find a few willing hands here and there.
I could help you as well.
He looks at you with actual, like, first real emotional response. He actually looks at you with a bit of a surprised look, like a,
I've helped build what we already have.
A very hard worker.
my apologies. I'm accustomed to rulers ruling and commoners working. It's refreshing to see a ruler get their hands dirty.
Well, the idea
London
is
didn't say
that
anything else.
we do things differently here in a lot of ways.
He nods appreciatively.
Does one think that in any way that comment about rulers ruling is derogatory in any way? Like he's, you know.
More of stating facts. Not opinion this way or that way. Just this is what I have observed there. This is what I observe here.
Mhm.
So he probably has opinions. He just doesn't share them, and is not meant to be quippy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, cool. And the conversation kind of, I imagine it's a much shorter period of time of small talk at this point, and maybe even a discussion of where it is the best location is for him to build a home. Well, there's actually a bluff over there where nobody's constructed quite just yet. Maybe that'd be a good location. And he actually says something along the lines of, he's contemplating whether or not he wants to build a small home or a large one. He says, I've grown accustomed to strong comforts. Perhaps I want to actually have a home that's a little bit more built up than the others. So he's contemplating whether or not he wants that to be the case, and kind of like place that in his mind.
Rarian would encourage him.
Ooh, jeez, my thing just.
You okay there?
It's like, you know, the armrest like
That would
turned to
have
the
been
side
amazing if Scott just gone.
Well, it's good thing to know. I did order. Sorry, Mamaton. I did order from Amazon Prime because it's Prime Day a brand new chair. So I did order. It's coming in the day before I go on vacation. So, and I'm working all that day. So like I'm like, oh, I don't know. Can I build it before I go? I can come back and just plop. If I have to do all of my husbandly duties and household duties to get everything taken care of, including my wife said, seriously, get a haircut. Really. And if I can accomplish all those tasks first, I'll build it. So, all right. Anyways, why don't we take just a very quick little break? We're talking like 3 to 5 minutes. We'll come back and we'll do our last kingdom roll and some more chatter and stuff like that. Okay.
Wee.
All right. Be back very shortly. Bye.
I want to slaughter someone with my sword.